In music, we have chords and arpeggios. Chords are when we play many notes at the same time. Arpeggios are when we play them one after another. In a chord, or an arpeggio, you have a note that gives you a sense of home. That note we call the tonic. In this case, D major, D is the tonic. The F sharp is the third, and the A is the fifth, and then quite often we play the tonic again, another D at the top, and then we go back down. Sometimes when we play arpeggios, we repeat the tonic. Sometimes we just play it once. I'm going to do it just once, most of the time when I talk about scales or arpeggios. The third is called the third because it's the third note in the scale of D. So when I talk about a key, if I just say the letter name, then that means that I'm talking about a major scale. We would never say D and mean D minor. If I say D, it's just D major. So in D, or D major, the third note, 1, 2, 3, is F sharp, which we play in the arpeggio, and the fifth note, A. Then I play another tonic, and then I come back down again. All major arpeggios in root position start with the first, the tonic, the third, the fifth, and then we go up to the tonic and then back down to the fifth, the third, and the tonic. This is known as root position, and this is what we start with when we first learn arpeggios. Now, we start with D major, A major, and G major because these are very comfortable for the hand on the violin because we can use open strings. Now, one of the things that you want in a very successful in tune arpeggio is you want to have the ringing note. So when you play your third finger, in this case, if we do a D, if your violin is in tune, this doesn't work if your violin's not in tune. If your violin is in tune and your third finger D is in tune, when you play the D alone, the third finger D, the sound will ring. It will continue for a moment. This is because it resonates with the open string. This doesn't work for something like C sharp. If you play a C sharp, the note stops immediately. It's a very dead note. But D is a very lovely note. So we want that to ring as well as possible. And that's one of the things that tells us both that the violin is in tune and that the violin is, I like to call it being happy for the violin. The violin's making the most sound that it can make. Sometimes we can crush if we use too much pressure on the bow. And we can crush the sound. So the violin must always breathe. We don't want to So always let the violin breathe. If you're not sure if it's ringing, take a few strokes with the bow on a down or an up and lift the bow away to make sure that the violin is breathing. And then when you're more comfortable with getting the ring to happen, you can leave the bow on. To check and see if the F sharp is in tune, we need to do a couple things. Now, F sharp, your second finger, is going to sit next to your third finger. Now, your teacher, or me, we might often say to put them very, very, very close together. This is just to get you a sense of the space between the first and the second finger, you can see here. But that's not always going to be what works best for the ear. Sometimes we want to have it a little bit back. What we call having good intonation or being in tune, where you should put your fingers, it really depends on the sound and it depends on the ear. Now, if your D is in tune, there's no question about when your D is in tune because it's ringing and it will match the open D. It will fit inside the sound. There it is. Now, if I play an F sharp, and I think it's going to be right here, Nope, that's not in tune. I'm looking for a kind of a sweet sound. Now I've got a sweeter sound, and I've also got a little growly sound happening as well. We like the growlies. The growlies are overtones, and I'll explain more about that later. But we want that sweet sound. If I go too close, it starts to sound not so nice. So go for the sweetest sound you can. Sometimes your finger can be right on the right place, and you just have to rock the end of your finger around. It could be just that much. Good luck.